Tomorrow was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. Naomi Carter stood in front of the full-length mirror in her childhood bedroom, the ivory wedding dress hanging behind her like a ghost of the future she had so carefully planned. She reached out and touched the delicate French lace, imported from Paris, custom-fitted to her body over 6 fittings. She smiled. In less than 24 hours, she would walk down the aisle of the Four Seasons Grand Ballroom and marry Darius Cole, the man who had swept her off her feet 3 years ago with his charm, his ambition, and his relentless, intoxicating pursuit of her heart. Darius was everything she had ever wanted. He was a successful real estate developer, a man who turned abandoned warehouses into luxury condos, who saw potential where others saw ruin. He had seen that same potential in her. When they met at a charity gala for underprivileged youth, she was a struggling event planner, drowning in student debt, working 16-hour days for clients who barely respected her. He told her she was brilliant, that she deserved more, that she was wasting her talent working for other people. He helped her launch her own business, co-signing a loan when no bank would touch her, introducing her to his network of wealthy clients. Within 2 years, she was one of the most sought-after event planners in the city, her calendar booked solid for the next 18 months. He had believed in her when no one else did. He had seen her, truly seen her, and loved her anyway. And tomorrow, in front of 200 guests at the Four Seasons, she would promise him forever. Her mother, a woman who rarely showed emotion, was already crying tears of joy every time someone mentioned the wedding. Her father, a stern man who had never approved of any of Naomi's previous boyfriends, had given Darius his blessing with a firm handshake and a rare, genuine smile. Her bridesmaids had thrown her the bachelorette party of her dreams in Miami. The honeymoon to Santorini was booked. Everything was perfect. Almost. There was one person whose happiness felt forced, whose smile never quite reached her eyes. Her younger sister, Simone. Simone had always been the wild one, the one who lived for the moment, who dated musicians and artists and bartenders and never settled down. She was beautiful, magnetic, and reckless in a way that Naomi had never been. Naomi loved her fiercely, protectively, but she also worried about her. Simone had been acting strange for months, distant and distracted. She would cancel plans at the last minute, disappear for days without explanation, and when Naomi asked her what was wrong, she would just shrug and say she was figuring things out. When Naomi asked her to be the maid of honor, Simone hesitated for a long, uncomfortable beat before saying yes. Naomi chalked it up to jealousy, to the fact that her little sister was watching her older sibling achieve the fairy tale first. She told herself Simone would come around. She always did. Tonight was the rehearsal dinner, the final gathering before the big day. Naomi's phone buzzed on the dresser. It was a text from Darius. "Running late, baby. Got held up at a site inspection in Buckhead. See you at the restaurant in an hour. Love you more than anything." She smiled and texted back a heart emoji and a kiss. He was always working, always building, always securing their future. That's who he was. That's why she loved him. She grabbed her purse, checked her makeup one last time, and headed downstairs. Her mother was in the kitchen, obsessively rearranging the seating chart for tomorrow's reception for the 3rd time that day. "Have you seen Simone?" Naomi asked, glancing at the clock. Her mother frowned, not looking up from the chart. "She said she had to run an errand. She'll meet us at the restaurant." Naomi nodded, but something about it felt off. Simone had been disappearing a lot lately. Errands that took hours, phone calls she would take in another room. But tonight wasn't the night to worry. Tonight was about celebration, about family, about love. She pushed the nagging feeling aside and headed out the door. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode. The rehearsal dinner was held at Osteria Moderna, a chic Italian restaurant downtown. The kind of place with dim Edison bulb lighting, exposed brick walls, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers, and waiters who move like shadows. Naomi arrived with her parents, greeting guests as they trickled in. Darius's mother, a warm woman who had already started calling Naomi daughter. His younger brother, the best man, who kept making jokes about Darius finally being locked down. Her bridesmaids, her college friends, her co-workers, everyone was there, laughing, toasting, celebrating. Everyone except the two people who mattered most, Darius and Simone. 30 minutes passed. Naomi checked her phone. No new messages. She called Darius. It went straight to voicemail. She called Simone. Same thing. A knot of anxiety began to form in her stomach, tight and cold. An hour passed. Guests were starting to ask questions. Where's the groom? Is everything okay? Naomi forced a bright smile and lied. He's just stuck in traffic. You know Atlanta. He'll be here any minute. She texted Darius again. Where are you? Everyone's here. I'm getting worried. No response. She texted Simone. Are you okay? Please answer me. We're about to start. Nothing. Her best friend Tasha, one of her bridesmaids and the woman who had known her since freshman year of college, noticed the panic creeping into Naomi's eyes. She pulled her aside. Girl, what's going on? You look like you're about to pass out. Naomi forced a laugh that sounded hollow even to her own ears. Darius and Simone are both MIA. I'm sure they're just stuck in traffic or something. But even as she said it, she didn't believe it. The knot in her stomach tightened. Tasha pulled out her phone. Let me call Simone. Maybe she'll answer me. You know how she is. Tasha dialed. The call connected. And then, faintly, impossibly, they heard it. A phone ringing. Not from Tasha's speaker, but from somewhere in the restaurant. Naomi's head snapped up. The sound was coming from the back, near the private dining rooms. Her heart began to race, her pulse pounding in her ears. She stood up, ignoring Tasha's confused questions, and walked toward the sound, her heels clicking on the polished concrete floor. The ringing stopped. Naomi stood in the narrow hallway, her breath shallow and fast. There were 3 private dining rooms back here, used for intimate parties and business dinners. 2 were dark, their doors open to reveal empty tables. One had a sliver of warm light under the door. She walked toward it, each step feeling like she was moving through water. She pressed her ear to the door. Silence. And then a voice. A woman's voice. Breathless. Laughing softly. It was Simone. Naomi's hand trembled as she reached for the brushed steel door handle. She told herself there was a reasonable explanation. Maybe Simone was on a call. Maybe she was talking to a friend, venting about something, and that's why she hadn't answered. But then she heard another voice, a man's voice, deep, familiar, achingly familiar. We have to be careful. Just one more night, baby, and then we figure it out, I promise. It was Darius, the voice of the man she was supposed to marry in less than 24 hours. The voice that whispered, I love you, every morning. The voice that was now whispering to her sister. Naomi's world tilted violently. Her hand was still on the door handle, frozen. Her mind screamed at her to walk away, to pretend she hadn't heard anything, to go back to the rehearsal dinner and smile and laugh and marry him tomorrow anyway, because the alternative was too devastating to comprehend. But her body moved on its own, driven by a force she couldn't name. She turned the handle and pushed the door open. The scene before her was a nightmare painted in soft, romantic candlelight. Darius was sitting on a deep burgundy velvet couch, his tie loosened and draped over the armrest, his crisp white shirt half unbuttoned, revealing the chest she had kissed 1,000 times. And on his lap, her arms draped around his neck, her fingers tangled in his hair, her lips inches from his in a moment that was clearly about to become a kiss, was Simone, her baby sister, wearing the dress Naomi had helped her pick out for tonight. They froze. The room went silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of laughter from the main dining room. 3 people suspended in a moment of pure, unfiltered horror. Naomi, Darius said, his voice strangled, his eyes wide with panic. He stood up so fast that Simone nearly fell off his lap. She caught herself on the arm of the couch, her face a mask of shock and something else. Guilt, maybe, or defiance, or shame. Naomi couldn't tell. She couldn't process anything. Her vision blurred at the edges. Her chest felt like it was caving in, like someone had reached inside and squeezed her heart until it stopped beating. What is this? Naomi's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the room like a blade. Darius stepped toward her, his hands raised like he was approaching a wild animal, like she was the dangerous one in this scenario. Naomi, baby, please. This isn't what it looks like. I swear to God, this isn't. The words were so cliche, so pathetic, so insultingly predictable that Naomi almost laughed. Almost. This isn't what it looks like? She repeated, her voice rising, shaking with a rage she didn't know she was capable of. You're half naked with my sister in a private room the night before our wedding, and this isn't what it looks like? Simone finally spoke, her voice small and shaking, her eyes red. Naomi, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear I didn't. It just did. Naomi's eyes snapped to her sister, and the rage that had been simmering exploded into something white-hot and blinding. It just happened? Like you tripped and fell onto his lap? Like you accidentally started sleeping with my fiancé? How long, Simone? How long have you been doing this? Simone looked at the floor, unable to meet her sister's eyes. Darius ran a hand through his hair, his face twisted in anguish that looked almost convincing. 6 months, he said quietly, the words barely audible. The confession hung in the air like a death sentence. 6 months, half a year. While Naomi was planning the wedding, picking out flowers, tasting cakes, addressing invitations, Simone and Darius had been betraying her. While she was falling asleep next to him every night, trusting him, loving him, building a future with him, he was texting her sister, meeting her in secret, lying to her face every single day. Get out, Naomi said, her voice cold and steady now, the shock giving way to a terrifying calm. Darius reached for her, his hand outstretched. Naomi, please, let me explain. It's not what you think. I love you. I want to marry you. This was a mistake, a stupid, terrible mistake, and get out. Her voice was a roar now, echoing off the walls, filling the small room with her fury. Darius flinched like she had struck him. Simone grabbed her purse and bolted past Naomi without a word, without a look, like a coward fleeing a battlefield. Darius stood there for a moment longer, his eyes pleading, his mouth opening and closing, like he was searching for words that didn't exist. And then he, too, walked out, leaving Naomi alone in the room, with the candles and the velvet couch and the shattered remains of her life. Naomi didn't cry. Not yet. She stood in that room for what felt like an eternity, staring at the couch, at the 2 wine glasses on the table, at the evidence of their betrayal. And then, with a deep breath, she walked back into the main dining room. Her face was a mask of stone, her eyes dry, her spine straight. The guests looked up, confused, their conversations trailing off into uncomfortable silence. Tasha rushed over, her face full of concern. Girl, what happened? Where's Darius? Where's Simone? Naomi's voice was calm, almost robotic, like she was reading from a script. The wedding is off. Please tell everyone to go home. The room erupted in shocked whispers, gasps, questions shouted over one another. Her mother stood up, her face pale, her hand clutching her chest. Naomi, what are you talking about? What happened? Naomi looked at her mother, and for the first time, the tears came, hot and fast and unstoppable. He's been cheating on me, with Simone, for 6 months. Her mother's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. Her father's face turned red with fury, his fists clenching at his sides. Tasha grabbed Naomi's hand and squeezed it so tight it hurt. We're leaving, right now. Come on. She led Naomi out of the restaurant, past the staring guests, past the pitying looks, past the whispers, and into the cool night air. They sat in Tasha's car in the parking lot in silence for a long time, the engine off, the city lights blurring through Naomi's tears. Finally, Naomi spoke, her voice hoarse. I have to cancel everything. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, the photographer, the band, the honeymoon. I have to call everyone and tell them the wedding is off because my fiancé was sleeping with my sister. Her voice broke on the last word, and she buried her face in her hands. Tasha shook her head fiercely. No, you don't have to do anything tonight. Tonight, you just breathe. Tonight, you survive. We'll deal with the rest tomorrow. But Naomi couldn't breathe. She felt like she was drowning, like the weight of the betrayal was pressing down on her chest, crushing her lungs. She had built her entire future around Darius. She had trusted him with everything, her heart, her dreams, her business, her family. And he had destroyed it all. And Simone, her baby sister, the girl she had protected from bullies in middle school, defended when their parents were too hard on her, loved unconditionally even when she made terrible choices. How could she do this? How could she look Naomi in the eye every day, help her pick out wedding favors, smile in the engagement photos, and be sleeping with Darius the entire time? The next morning, Naomi woke up in Tasha's guest room, her eyes swollen from crying, her head pounding. Her phone was on the nightstand, filled with missed calls and texts. 37 from Darius, 15 from Simone, 20 from her mother. She ignored them all. There was only one thing she needed to do. She got dressed, put on her sunglasses to hide her red eyes, and drove to the Four Seasons. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode. The wedding coordinator, a polished woman named Margaret who had planned weddings for celebrities and politicians, looked horrified when Naomi walked into her office. "Ms. Carter, I'm so sorry to hear about what happened. I can't even imagine. We'll begin processing the cancellations immediately and—" Naomi held up a hand, cutting her off. "I'm not here to cancel. I'm here to make a change." Margaret blinked, clearly confused. "I'm sorry, a change?" Naomi smiled, and it was the coldest, most determined smile she had ever worn. "The wedding is still happening, same time, same place, same everything. But there's no groom. It's going to be a party, a celebration. For me." Margaret stared at her like she had lost her mind. I don't understand. You want to throw a party? On what was supposed to be your wedding day?" Naomi leaned forward, her voice steady and clear. "I've already paid for everything. The food, the flowers, the band, the open bar. 200 people are expecting a party. So I'm going to give them one. A party to celebrate my freedom. A party to celebrate the fact that I found out who he really was before I legally tied myself to him. Can you make that happen?" Margaret hesitated for only a moment, and then she nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. Yes, I can make that happen." And that's exactly what they did. At 4 p.m. the next day, Naomi walked into the Four Seasons grand ballroom in her wedding dress. The room was stunning. White roses everywhere, candles glowing on every table, a string quartet playing softly in the corner. But instead of walking down the aisle to Darius, she walked to the microphone at the front of the room, where the officiant was supposed to stand. The guests, confused and whispering, fell silent. "Thank you all for coming," Naomi said, her voice strong and clear, echoing through the ballroom. "As you may have heard, there is no wedding today. My fiancé decided that my sister was a better choice. So instead of a wedding, we're having a party. A party to celebrate the fact that I dodged a bullet. A party to celebrate the fact that I am free, I am strong, and I will never ever let anyone make me feel small again. So please eat the food, drink the champagne, dance to the band, and celebrate with me. Because today isn't about what I lost. It's about what I gained, my self-respect." The room was silent for a beat, the guests processing what they had just heard. And then someone started clapping. It was Tasha, standing in the front row, tears streaming down her face, clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. Then her father joined in, his face full of pride. Then her mother, and soon the entire room was on their feet, applauding, cheering, some of them crying. Naomi smiled, a real, genuine smile this time, and raised her champagne glass. To new beginnings. The party was legendary. The food was devoured, the champagne flowed, and Naomi danced with her father, with Tasha, with her bridesmaids, until her feet hurt and her face ached from smiling. And when she finally went home that night, exhausted and emotionally drained, she didn't feel broken. She felt reborn. Darius and Simone had taken her fairy tale, but she had taken back her power, her dignity, and her future. And that, she realized as she took off the wedding dress for the last time, was worth more than any marriage certificate or diamond ring could ever be. If you're enjoying this story, take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next episode. 6 months later, Naomi Carter sat in her corner office overlooking the Atlanta skyline, reviewing contracts for her biggest client yet, a Fortune 500 company launching a product that would require a 3-day conference for 5,000 people. Her business had exploded after the wedding. That wasn't. The story had gone viral on social media. News outlets had picked it up. Woman throws party instead of wedding after discovering fiancé's affair with her sister had been trending for a week. At first, Naomi had been horrified by the attention. But then, something unexpected happened. Women started reaching out to her, hundreds of them, thousands of them. Women who had been betrayed, who had stayed silent, who had been told to forgive and move on. They thanked her for showing them that there was another way, that you didn't have to shrink yourself to make space for someone else's betrayal. Her phone rang. It was her assistant. "Ms. Carter, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. It's your sister." Naomi's hand tightened around the phone. She hadn't spoken to Simone since that night. Simone had tried, of course. She had sent texts, emails, letters. She had shown up at Naomi's apartment twice, begging to talk. Naomi had ignored all of it. But now, 6 months later, sitting in her office with her life rebuilt and thriving, she felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but curiosity. "Send her in," Naomi said. A moment later, Simone walked through the door. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was shorter, her eyes tired. She looked like someone who hadn't slept well in months. She stood in the doorway, hesitant, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to be there. "Hi," Simone said quietly. "Hi," Naomi replied, her voice neutral. She didn't stand up, she didn't smile. She just waited. Simone took a shaky breath. "I know you don't want to see me. I know you probably hate me, and you have every right to. But I needed to come here and say this to your face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed you in the worst way possible, and I will regret it for the rest of my life." Naomi leaned back in her chair, studying her sister. "Why did you do it?" she asked. Simone's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know. I was jealous. You had everything. The career, the man, the perfect life. And I had nothing. I was broke. I was lost. And when Darius started paying attention to me, it felt good. It felt like someone finally saw me. But that's not an excuse. There is no excuse. I destroyed the most important relationship in my life because I was selfish and stupid." Naomi nodded slowly. "You're right. There is no excuse. You didn't just betray me, Simone. You looked me in the eye every day, helped me plan my wedding, and lied to me. You made me feel crazy for thinking something was wrong. That's not just selfish. That's cruel." Simone sobbed, her shoulders shaking. I know. And I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm getting help. I'm in therapy. I'm trying to figure out why I sabotage everything good in my life. I'm trying to be better." Naomi stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. "I'm glad you're getting help. I really am. But I'm not ready to have you in my life again. Maybe one day, but not today." Simone nodded, wiping her eyes. "I understand. Thank you for seeing me. And Naomi, I'm proud of you. For what you did. For how you handled everything. You're stronger than I ever could be." She turned and walked out, closing the door softly behind her. Naomi stood at the window for a long time, processing the conversation. She didn't feel angry anymore. She didn't feel sad. She felt free. A week later, Naomi was at a coffee shop, working on her laptop, when someone sat down across from her. She looked up. It was Darius. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled, his face unshaven, his eyes bloodshot. "Naomi," he said, his voice hoarse, "please just give me 5 minutes." She should have walked away. She should have told him to leave. But instead, she closed her laptop and crossed her arms. "You have 3 minutes." Darius leaned forward, his hands clasped together like he was praying. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I was an idiot. I was weak. And I'm sorry. I know sorry isn't enough, but it's all I have. I love you, Naomi. I never stop loving you. Please, give me another chance. Naomi looked at him, really looked at him, and felt nothing. No love, no anger, just indifference. You don't love me, Darius. You love the idea of me. You love what I represented. Stability, success, someone who made you look good. But you didn't love me enough to be faithful. You didn't love me enough to be honest. So no, there's no second chance. There's no going back. I've moved on. And you should too. She stood up, grabbed her laptop, and walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. As she stepped into the bright Atlanta sunshine, her phone buzzed. It was a text from a number she didn't recognize. Hi, my name is Marcus. I saw your story online a few months ago. I know this is random, but I'm in Atlanta for work, and I'd love to take you to dinner. No pressure. Just a conversation between two people who believe in second chances. Let me know. Naomi smiled. She didn't know if she would text him back. She didn't know if she was ready. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She had survived the worst betrayal of her life. She had rebuilt herself from the ground up. And now, standing in the sunshine, with her whole life ahead of her, she realized something important. The story wasn't about Darius or Simone. It was about her. And her story was just beginning. Before you go, tap that like button, leave a comment to let us know what you think, and subscribe so you're always the first to hear our next story. Your support keeps these stories coming.